Final Destination Bloodlines 2025 Story Plus Review Part 1. That's Part 1. The Pre-motions and the Curse begins. Introducing and setting this tune. From the very first frame, Final Destination Bloodlines announces itself as both a rebirth and a return. Directed by Zach Lipovsky and Adam Stein. This sixth installment leans into the horror legacy while expanding the mythology of the Death List with a multi generational mystery that finally gives meaning to the term bloodlines. We open the Brooklyn 1968. A woman's voice narrates over a maze of a quiet city neighborhood. The narration turns into a frantic prayer. This is Evelyn Rains, a young nurse in her early 20s. She boards a ferry with co-workers for a celebration retreat. The mood is upbeat. If Evelyn, however, feels something is wrong, she sees strange omens, a lost steel cable, a flickering light, a child pointed at her, then crying. As tension mounts, a ferry worker knocks over a hot drink, scalding himself. Evelyn panics. And then a massive cable snaps. Whipping across the ferry deck, people scream, blood sprays, the ferry tilts violently as a nearby tug slams into its side. We watch every gruesome detail of a mass casualty event unfold in horrifying slow motion. A man implanted as a flagpole, a mother clutching her child as they are swept into the river. Evelyn crushed beneath a steel door. Just as Alvin's eyes dim, the screen cuts to black. The first twist it was a pre-motion. Suddenly, Emily gasps. She is still standing on the dock, everything intact. The ferry is boarding. Her friends are calling her name, but she knows what's coming. In a panic, she screams, "Get off the boat, it's going to sink." The crowd turns against her. Some follow her, others dismiss her. She collapses, sobbing. Then the scene roleplay. The ferry leaves, the disaster strikes, but this time Evelyn watches it from the dock, surrounded by the few she convinced to disembark. Cut title screen. Final Destination Bloodline bold red dripping with foreshadowing. Review note best opening scenes part 3. This pre-title sequence is arguably the most cinematically accomplished of the franchise. While Final Destination 3 had the roller coaster and Part 5 offered the suspension bridge, the ferry disaster in Bloodline worked both visually and emotionally. The 1916 setting gives it a haunting atmosphere, and for the first time, the franchise makes its inciting disaster personal, tethering into the family legacy that will drive the film forward. Act 1 Meet the Descendants. Fast forward to present day, where we meet Stephanie Reyes, a 22-year-old biology student attending a community college in New York, smart, grounded, and skeptical. Stephanie is our new lead. She lives with her Abula, older Evelyn, who suffers from dementia and cryptically mature, warning about death coming back. We are introduced to the Fred's group. Lime, Stephanie's ex-boyfriend, a med school dropout. Tia, her best friend and amateur astrologer. Ethan, a class clown with a surprising sense of empathy. Jax, a quiet film student documenting life. A glass drip is planned to an old industrial steel plant being turned into an art exhibition. A gentrified room turned into culture. The site is turns out it built on the bones of the old ferry yard. During the trip, Stephanie has a vivid vision. Pipis exploding, sacrificing, collapsing, fire emplantment, screaming as with past films. The sequence play out in film. Ethan, crushed under a sculpture, lime presses through the chest, tear burned alive. Then she awakened, gasping. The escape sequence. Now alert to the danger, Stephanie scrambles to the pull her friends away, screaming that something's about to go wrong. Chaos ensues. A security guard slips, triggering a chain reaction. Gas leak, spark bomb, a real explosion happen. But thanks to Stephanie's pre-motion, she and give others survive. The rest of the class and the guides are not lucky. Inter-detective region call played by a Stein yet methodic Jennifer Esposito who suspects foul play. Stephanie insists it what a promotion. The detective shrugs her off but makes note of the name raised when reading the survivor list. Review note franchise legacy remedies. The plots take final destination, usual formula cheating death only for death to return and smartly complicates it by trying Stephanie to Evelyn. The story gives this installment generation weight for the first time. The idea that death remembered across time is introduced, elevating the stakes and introducing philosophical question about inheritance, guilt, and the cyclical nature of fate. Act 2. The chain begins again. Now we enter familiar territory but rightfully one by one. Survivor begins to die in increasingly elaborate sequence, each subtly tied in artifact from the 1968 ferry incident. Thea finds herself locked in a glass art box with gas slowly filling the chamber. She is suffocated while people outside think it's a part of a performance. Ethan death that Ethan deaths take place during a rooftop shot. A rigged split collapses after a string of seemingly minor events. Coffee spill, birds streak, missing crew. He fell 5 stories into iron railings, reaching the flag-pulling emplantment in 1968. Line seeing answer find old footage of Elvis Ferry pre-motion. He digs future and distorts news clips about William Bloodworth, a chronicler who predicted death patterns years ago. In a chilling sequence, Lime and a Stephanie visit Bloodworth, played by Tony Todd, now in his 17s and living as a recluse in an upstate funeral home. The return of Bloodworth. Bloodworth is cryptic but ominous. You think you were separate because you are special. No, child. You were marked long before your mother was born. You carry her blood and death. Death carries your name. He reveals that Evelyn was the first to escape, but it did not end there. The souls who should not died then created a temporal depth. A curse passed through DNA. It's not just a pattern anymore. He said it's heritage. Review notes Tony Todd steals the show. Tony Todd's return in a masterstroke. His presence elevates the film. announcing the supernatural logic with gravities. He does not just warn, they makes him a philosopher of fate, adding emotional and narrative texture. Not seen since Final Destination 2, his dialogue feels Shakespeare at times, while the lighting and sound design in his sense add layers of dread. End of part 1. Part 2. Blood Depth, Broken Patterns, and Death Final Play. Act 2. Continued Death picks up speed. Following the meeting with Bloodworth, the remaining survivors are now fully convinced death is back and it's hunting in order. Stephanie begins charting the pattern, attempting to reveal engineer who's next. Lime and Stephanie realize that each victim's death mirrors their position during the initial explosion and resemble death from the 1968 ferry incident. The new wrinkle echoes from the past adds tension not only in death, correcting the current timeline, it's balancing a scale tipped two generation ago. Death Fall, Jack's final frame. Jack's the quiet documentarian becomes os- obsessed with filming every moment of their lives. In a hunting sequence, he is reviewing drone footage that shows a faint, shadowy figure in the background of each scene, always right behind the person who's about to die. As he added his equipment multifunction, the drone he is charging explodes mid-air, igniting a curtain, starting a fire. He tries to escape through a window, but a dangling electrical cord wraps around his ankle. He trips and crashes into a sculpture made of glass shards. The final moments show the camera still recording, capturing his face in death. The drone crashes into in cut to black. Review note invention set pieces familiar logic. By now, Final Destination Bloodlines embraces the chaos. Every death is creatively gruesome but not overly gratuitous. The franchise's signatures, Rube Goldberg style death setup are on full display, but this time the audience is made to feel them. Each death has emotional impact, especially with the family echoes. The visual palette also shifts, senses become more saturated with red, black, and cold industrial hose. There's a grim, inevitable building like a nose dictating. The bloodline revealed heavenly secrets. Detective Cole continues digging into Evelyn Ray's past. She confronts Stephanie with a shocking reveal. Evelyn had a child she gives up after the ferry disaster, a child born from an affair with a married man who also survived. Stephanie is not Evelyn's granddaughter, she is her great niece. The true bloodline leads elsewhere. Enter Devin Cooper, a tattoo artist and recovering addict raised in foster care. He is the real great grandson of Evelyn. He was on the trip too but left early due to illness. Now he is next. David is skeptical until he is nearly killed when a pipe bursts in his tattoo parlor, narrowly missing his jugular. Stephanie finds him, explain everything. He is dragged into the horror. Review note expanding the lore. This plot twice is fresh. It does not rewrite the rules. It expands them by showing that bloodlines can separate. intermingle and skip the franchise opens up new possibilities. For the first time, fate is not just a pattern, it's a genetic curse. You don't just have to survive an accident, you have to inherit. Act 3, the sacrifice theory. With only Stephanie, Liam, and Devin left, they revisit Bloodworth. He gives them a cryptic clue. If the blood runs backward, maybe death will follow. Liam theorizes that revising the family debt, saving someone who should have died, might be enough to close the loop. They need to find someone from the original 1968 survivor. They rush to Evelyn's care home only to find her saying she matures. I should not let it take me. Stephanie realizes what must be done. Climax, the second ferry disaster. Devin recalls a local ferry events being reenacted at the Hudson River Heritage Heritage Festival. It's meant to honor the survivor of 1968. They believe this is where death will strike again. They race there. Hundreds of people are boarding a replaced ferry. Stephanie and Lamb warn organizers but are ignored. Stephanie spots a survivor from the original incident, the last living soul who cheated death along with Evelyn. She is an elderly woman giving a speech. Stephanie believes her death is the key of ending it all. Suddenly, machinery starts to fail. The boat engine overheats. The cables start to snap, chaos erupts. In a harrowing scene, Liam rescues children from a collapsing gangway. Devon sacrifices himself to save an old man, taking a scaffolding beam to the back. Stephanie reaches the survivor and pulls her out just in time. But it's too late. The boat tips, Stephanie is thrown into the river. The camera follows her down, where she sees ghostly outlines of those who died before she sinks. Final sequence, death defeated. We cut to a hospital. Stephanie is alive. She caught water, eyes wide. Colo confirmed that only two people died, Devin and a security guard. Later, Bloodworth visits the hospital. He guesses the Stephanie. You gave death what it wanted, but not what it expected. As he walks away, a nurse bumps into him. Papers fall. We see a patient chart. Pregnant woman named Stephanie Rains. She is expecting. Final shot, the baby's eyes open in the womb and a shadow moves. Cut to black. Roll credit. Review section critical breakdown. Performance Kaitlyn Santa Juan. Stephanie excellent. Final girth energy relatable, intense, and emotionally resonant. Tony Dodd Bloodworth as commanding as ever. His screen presence adds depth and continuity. Sporting cast strong enough to care about, especially Jax and Tia. Directing and tone. Lipovsky and Stein strike a careful balance between franchise thrill and mature storytelling. The film's tone is darker, more serious, but it does not lose the fun. Death scenes are beautifully choreographed, but grounded in dread, visual style, and effect. The cinematography adds a chilling realism, especially in the factory and ferry scenes. Minimal relies on CGI makes the deaths feel real. The shadow modify death always watching adds a creepy layer of atmosphere. Sound score. A hunting score by Bear McCary combined orchestral dread with industrial noise. The theme subtly mimics a ticking clock, emphasizes that death is always counting down. Theme Fate with Bloodline. The biggest addition to the franchises, your family history can curse you. Sacrifice breaking the cycle requires selflessness. Legacy death is not just chasing you, it remember your ancestors. Overall rating 8.5 to 10. Pros emotional stakes and lore expansion. Fresh and predictable kills Tony Todd's return, visual atmosphere and thematic maturity. Cons a bit exposition heavy in the middle, some side characters feel underused. Box office and reception as of June 2025. Budget $25 million. Worldwide gross so far $142 million. Rotten Tomatoes 81%. Criteria 87% audience. Fan consensus. The best final destination since the original. Part 3 Echoes of the Past Symbolism Character Arc a Franchise's Evolution. Deeper character studies Stephanie Reyes, the legacy survivor. Stephanie is unlike many Final Destination protagonists. She is not reactive, she is investigative. She does not just run from death, she researches it, challenges it. Her arc begins with a detachment logical, good but ends with an emotional sacrifice, rising her own life to save strangers and even making peace with the legacy Evelyn left behind. Key theme in Stephanie's arc denial, acceptance, defiance. Navigation, trauma through inquiry, not just fear. Redefining family and breaking generation cycle. I will not turn from what I come from. I won't turn from what I come from, but I will not, but I won't left it kill me either. Stephanie with me Molonghio. Her pregnancy in the end is not a gimmick. It's a message death never ends. But life continues anyway. A powerful inversion of the franchise's nihilistic tone. Evelyn Reyes, the guilt carries. The film uses Evelyn not as comic relief or expository filler, but as tragic mirror. Suffering dementia, she is both helpless and hunted. Her maturing seem incoherent but are actually warning. The water remembers, steel bends again. Her trauma is layered. She survived, but at what cost? She spent decades consumed by guilt, and her silence allowed the bloodline to continue cursed. Symbolically, she represents the first domino in a multi generational pattern. The idea that survival does not guarantee peace. Living proof that you can beat death and still lose everything. Bloodworth, the ferryman of fate. Toon Todd's returns as Bloodworth is more than fans survive, it's mythic. Here he is no longer a mere coroner. He is prophet of inevitability. He does not control death, but he seems to understand its language. His most chilling line. People think people think death is cruel. People think death is cruel. No, death is balance. Cruelty, that's us. Fans have long speculated that Bloodworth is death itself in disguise. This film leans into the theory with small cause. His office has no mirror. No one interacts with him except Stephanie and Leah. When he leaves a room, the lights dim. Yet the film wisely never confirms his true identity, maintaining mystery while depending his myths, symbolism, and visual theme. The web of fate. Throughout the film, recurring visuals include spider webs seen in attraction, broken glasses, avalanche sketches, introverts cabin, roofs, hair braids, drones flying in wide circle. These are not accidental. They symbolize the interconnected nature of the bloodline curse. You may cut one thread, but the web remains. But the web remains. You were never just one strand. You were never just one strand. You were the center. Blood worth to Stephanie. Blood as destiny. There are repeated moments involving literal blood. Evelyn bleeding during her surgery, Stephanie getting a small nosebleed before each death. David's final sacrifice is bleeding out while smiling. Blood here represents longing and guilt, payment owed, a ticking clock. It becomes clear by the midpoint that bloodlines is not just a metaphor, it's death ledger. Fan theories and franchises connections. Fan theory 1, Stephanie is a reincarnation. Some fans theorize that Stephanie might be a reincarnation of Evelyn, sporting evidence. She shares Evelyn's middle name. Her dreams occasionally include memories she never experienced. Bloodworth refers to her as the loop's key. While not confirmed, it fits the franchise's themes of cycle and repetition. Fan theory 2, the baby is the ancestor of the franchises. The hunting final scene, where we see the feet's eyes open and a shadow moves inside the home, has sparked massive online speculation. Is this child cursed from birth? Is death laying a new trap? Could this be the franchise's firstborn to die protagonist? It's a final destination 7 happen. Expect this child to be the core of the story. Franchises callback moments for fan. Stephanie's promotions mirrors the intro of FD1 Alex in classes. The factory the factory explosion includes a falling ladder, homage to FD2's dentist office kill. Number 3, Jack's death included a falling camera flash, callback to the photography theme in FD3. 4, Bloodworth's funeral parallel resemble the one from Final Destination 5. During one death, we hear Rocky Mountain High softly playing an eerie note to the plane crash in Final Destination 1. These touches rewards long-time reviewer without allocation new ones. Why Bloodline works and how it elevates the series. Unlike some horror sequel, looking at you, Final Destination 4, Final Destination Bloodlines does not just repeat the formula, it evolves it by introducing heritage, emotional weight, and generational trauma. It becomes something more. Instead of character just trying to avoid death, they grapple with questions like why did I survive? Why did I survive? Do I owe something for being separate? Can trauma be inherited? Can sacrifice erase guilt? These questions make bloodlines not just scary but hauntingly human. Final verdict. Final Destination Bloodline is not just a return, it's a resurrection. Resurrection. It respects its roots, honors its fans, and dares to introduce meaningful ideas into a franchise often dismissed as gimmicky. It's smart, scary, and even sad. But most importantly, it leaves you thinking if your blood owes death, who pays the price when you are gone? If your blood owns death, who pays the price when you are gone? End of analysis. Word count total story plus review plus deep dive. Now it's part 4 legacy and the ending meaning and what comes next for the franchises. Epilogue after the ferry, after the near fatal ferry recreating incident. Stephanie's survival marks a bittersweet moment. Death has seemingly been cheated again, damage remains. But the damage remains. We revisit scenes in quiet aftermath. Stephanie sits alone watching her mother's old video diaries, trying to understand what Evelyn hid for so long. She realized Evelyn was trying to protect her, not curse her. Detective Cole, now of death's pattern, looks into similar cases and begins tracking other bloodline survivors. She finds a photo of a young woman in Chicago whose grandmother was on the 1968 ferry. The implication it's not over. Liam, walking with a lime, is seen pointing pinning newspaper clips to a wall in this apartment, trying to map death web. The final scene cuts to Stephanie's home, where she is painting a nursery. The camera pans to a mobile spinning above a crib, black feathers, a boat, and a mirror shard. Suddenly, the mobile stops spinning, the light flicker cut off to black. Ending explained life, death, and the new rule. The franchises has always been rooted in a simple, brutal mechanics. Cheat death and it will return. But Bloodlines twists that by asking, what if death is not just a sequence? What if death is not just a sequence? What if it's legacy? This film does not nullify the old rules, it depends them. The new rule set death may wait, but it does not forget. Death may wait, but it does not forget. Number two, a survivor descendant can still be targeted. A survivor's descendants can still be targets. Number three, sacrifice can reset the cycle, but only temporarily. Four, pregnancy and new life can draw death's attention, especially if the line is tainted. Number five, the curse follows family, not just individuals. This reinterpretation offers fresh possibilities for further inquiries while respecting the myths. Fan and critics reception June 2025. Criticism: the AV Club, smart, scary, and surprisingly thoughtfully. Bloodline is the thinking person final destination. Angie, a blood revival of a dead, no pun intended, franchise. It's equal parts horror and tragedy. Roger Ebert.com. Stephanie Reyes may be the series, but protagonic yet fans online. The Reddit and TikTok communities have explained with a pay appreciation Final Destination theory trends for a week after release. Wow. Over 12K fan theories on Reddit within 3 weeks. Tony Todd's Ferryman of Fate line is used in over 4 million TikTok remixes. Box office update as of week 3. Origin USA revenue $67 million. Internationally 60 internationally $75 million. Total $142 million. Budget only $25 million. It's already the second highest grossing entry in the franchise, behind Final Destination 3 2006, but quickly closing it. What comes next? Final Destination 7. While Bloodline was not marked as the start of a trilogy, the final scenes strongly tease a continued. Director Zach Lipovsky confirmed in a Collider interview, "We planted seeds. We planted seeds. Whether they grow into another film depends on the fans, but death always has a plan." Possible direction for Final Destination 7, the baby storyline, the unborn child inherits the curse, new twice, death begins stalking in utero or during early childhood, could explore mother's legacy, guilt, and parental instinct. Global Web, we follow other bloodlines survivor across continent, a sort of Final Destination anthology. Bloodworth Origins, a Pre-equal exploring how he came to know so much possible set in the 1916 or earlier. Interactive fate. Someone discovered a way to influence death list but at a cost, turning the formula into a psychological game of sacrifice. Franchise evolution then was now. Final Destination 1 to 3 2000 to 2006 Precaution plus gory spectacle. Final Destination 4 to 5 2009 to 2011 Over the Top Kills plus Callback. Final Destination Bloodlines Legacy Genetics Emotion. Bloodlines is not about teens turning from fate, it's about adults confronting inter- inherited trauma. Final thought: why Bloodline is a modern horror stand out. This film remains us why Final Destination become iconic in the first place. Tension without a visible killer, creative but earned death, psychological bread over jump scares, and now real world resources through family, ancestry, and choice. It earns its spot alongside horror rebirths like Scream 2022 and Evil Death Rise. Final Destination Bloodline Complete Scorecard. Story and plot 9.2, acting and performance 8.5, death sequences 9.0, directing and cinematography 8.0, themes and symbolism 9.5, franchise legacy value 10, rewatchability 9.0, scares 8.0, average score 8.8 by 10, certified cult classic in the making. Would you survive? It's the question. Final Destination. Bloodlines asks better than any film since the original, and maybe you already did. But what about your children or your children's children? Death does not just chase, it follows, it remembers, it returns. Would you like me to? Now, Final Destination 7 Inheritance. Taglines: you can escape death, but can you blood? You can escape death, but can your blood? Directed sequel to Bloodline 2025. Core concept: years after the events of Bloodlines, Stephanie Ray's child is now 9 year old, but strange patterns emerge. Friends dying around her, objects falling just inches from her, and a growing shadow that only she can see. The survivors soon discover that death has changed its rule. It no longer waits for teens to grow up. The curse now begins at birth. The child is not cursed, she is the key, blood worth. Now, theme: inherited trauma and survival guilt, personal instinct with cosmic fate, loss of innocence in childhood. Can you die before your time if you were never meant to be born? Main character Luna Rice 9, Stephanie's daughter, intelligent, quiet, and often draws what has not happened yet. She is having dreams of death she never sees, but soon they come true. Stephanie Ryan, now in her early 30s, she lives in semi isolation to protect her child. Her PTSD from bloodlines has worsened. Tariq and Riz, a child psychologist brought in after Luna's first vision. He is skeptical until he sees it himself. Josh, a teen neighbor with a tragic connection, his older brother died in the fairy fire. He and Luna form an unlikely friendship. Bloodworth, written but in a diminished form, appears more ghost-like, suggesting he may no longer be among the living, or was he ever? Plot summary, no spoiler yet. Act 1, Whisper in the Blood. Luna begins drawing disturbing scenes, each depicting an act death that occurred hours or day later. Her mother Stephanie is horrified to realize the curse has returned when Luna's third grade teacher dies in a classroom accident triggered by a falling blinds and a looseness globe. It becomes clear the pattern the pattern is starting again, earlier than ever. Act 2, the chain regenerates. Stephanie tracks down Tariq, a grief counselor known for studying generational trauma. Together they piece together a horrifying truth. Everyone near Luna who has a blood connection to the original 1968 ferry survivor is dying every if they were not at the ferry. Death has expanded its reach. Act 3, Death's New Design. Bloodworth reappears with Cryptic's new wisdom. He suggests death is recognized itself, no longer just a clear up crew for survivors, but an evolutionary force correcting ancestral imbalances. To break the cycle, Luna must make a terrible choices into the fairy right sides, now submerged and quarantined, to uncover the first unclaimed soul, a child that was supposed to die in 1968 but survived in secrecy. Her life now depends on balancing death, oldest unpaired death. Act 4, the sacrifice paradox. Inside the wreckage, Luna uncovers hidden footage on the 1968 events where a nurse stole a baby away in the chaos. The baby was Evelyn Rice. The bloodline never should have continued. Luna chose to save the cycle not by dying but by saving someone else. Joe's whose brother death set his own course of guilt. She offered herself in his place. But just as death moves in a twist, Luna disappears in a flash of light. Final scene, a photo frame shifts in Stephanie's home, showing her daughter, showing her daughter gone, but no memory of her. No one remember Luna except Bloodworth. Someone, the only way to win it to be forgotten. Inventive death sequence samples, aquarium death, teacher. A classroom turtle tank exploded from heat lamp manufacture. The teacher slims on water, hits her head on the edge of a desk, then it electrocutes by sparking wires submerged in the water. Playground death, babysitter, seesaw mechanism catches a pure start, sending a little girl flying. Babysitter saves her only to be impaled by a broken flagpole when the wind yanks the flag and snaps the pulley. Glass factory teen cousin. A kid sneaks into an old glass Boeing waterhouse on a dare. A chain reaction of molten glass, Rothley gas valves, and a dropped metal tongs leads to a furnace imploding and glass sharded flying like bullets. Car seat strap, Tariq's sister, trying to find a jammed chilled car seat. The mechanism jams her hand as she struggles. The car rolls backward onto train track. Train arrives second later, horn wailing while she screams inside the locked vehicle. Ending test for Final Destination 8. The film ends with a cliffhanger twist. A boy in a distant country wakes up from a nap. He draws a picture of a girl, Lona, standing at the bottom of the ocean while open eyes. Behind her, thousands of faces stare out from the deep. Final line, they are not gone, just waiting. Why this work? Explore new theories without betraying the core formula. Now, summary title card. Title Final Destination 7 Inheritance. Genre Horror Supernatural Thriller. Now, rating likely are violence trauma theme. Protagonists Luna Reyes, child, Stephanie Reyes, returning lead, villain death, abstract time, new element. Theme You would not have to die to be claimed. Ending twist Luna erases herself from fate's memory, but death remembered. Now, if you like to, I make a next episode for Final Destination 7 for my vision, then comment and tell me other different movies I will make on sequel. Now I request you to subscribe, like and share. Thanks for watching.